Alright, welcome to NoobAquatics. So, you want to own your own fish room. Well, what does that mean? What do you got to do? Where do you need to start? And what does it look like to have an actual fish room? Now, this is for those that are considering breeding fish or considering buying more than one tank. This is your normal week. This is what you would have to do. So let's start out with what you first need to do, which is buy all the stuff. So let's take a look at some of this stuff and see what the average cost might be. Now keep in mind, you don't start a fish room and just go out there and buy brand new stuff. You know, I mean, if you do, then you want to make sure you're getting the best deal possible. And if you don't have a Petco in your area, then this probably doesn't pertain to you. So look at Facebook marketplaces, places like that, and look for gently used aquariums and aquarium equipment. That would be the recommendation. But at Petco, you can get things for half price. So let's take a look to see what we did. Here's a 75-gallon aquarium. At Petco, they have their what used to be called dollar per gallon. Their dollar per gallon for the tanks. So we got this roughly for about 150, 170 bucks when it's roughly around $250 for the tank. So that's just the tank, all right? But then you got to buy the substrate. So the substrate down here is a mixture of 3 different substrates. So planted substrate, a thicker, more medium sized substrate that's also planted, and then a top layer of black diamond blasting sand, which you can get 50 pounds of for about $11, $12 at a one of your, what's that place called? The Tractor Supply store? Tractor Supply Company. So we love black diamond blasting sand, as you'll see in every one of our aquariums. We have it in all of it. You just got to rinse it really well. So the overall cost of this right here, without the stand, because I actually built this by hand. All right, I built this from scratch and painted it with a waterproofing, lacquer on there and everything that has a polyurethane built into it. So hopefully that'll last for 6+ years without decaying. But I built this, so a stand itself can be anywhere from $200, which is what all the parts and materials cost to build this one, all the way up to $400 for a stand. The aquarium itself, with the hang on the back filter, all of the plants, all of the substrate, all of the rock and decoration, roughly around $900 all the way up to $1,500 just for one aquarium. So this is going to cost you around $2,000 just for one aquarium if you want one this big. So then, we have a 40-gallon breeder right here, which we got for, what was it, about 50 bucks? 25, so yeah, 50 bucks. So we got this right here, the aquarium itself, for about 50 bucks at Petco. It was on the half-off sale that they have with the substrate and everything, all of that for the aquarium, the plants, the substrate, the light, the heater, all of that. This right here is roughly about $500 altogether. Why? Because I repurposed a coffee table that we had using some of the leftover wood from this stand here. I built it sturdy, so I actually reinforced the coffee table so that it can hold hundreds and hundreds more weight. So that's what we did. We reinforced it. We reused products. We like to recycle. So yeah, so this right here roughly costs about that much. Now the 10-gallon aquariums, this one's the unique one. I actually built the stand that it's on with the leftover wood from this, so the stand didn't cost anything extra, except for one board, I think is what I had to buy, so I had to spend another $10 on a 2x4. But the aquarium we got for $10. The pump right over here, or the sponge filter, we got for roughly $10 at Aquarium Co-op. The rock that's in there came out of the 75. And then, of course, black diamond blasting sand in there with the fish and everything. So we'll get into the fish costs later. And then, of course, the light, which was 15 bucks. So right here, this stand overall, this probably cost roughly about $50 for this particular aquarium here. So you can go really cheap. We have our grow out tanks. So the fish here, you see the Acar is going nuts. This is a 20-gallon long. This one right here. We got the aquarium for 25 bucks for the 20-gallon longs. We got those. The lights up here, this is a 5-light grow light from Amazon. We got for 20 bucks. The Aquarium Co-op sponge filters that we have in there, same price. So roughly this right here, not the stand, this right here roughly cost us about, I'd say $100, because I do have a filter in there, the sand in there and everything, and the same thing out on the bottom, roughly about $100. Now, the stand, this is actually one of those metal garage stands. It comes with these really flimsy pieces of wood. So I actually spent about $70 for a 3/4 inch piece of plywood that is hardwood. Cut the sheets to, you know, match perfect length. All right, so that these right here would not bow, and it would last a very long time. So the metal itself can hold roughly around 600 to 800 pounds, but the boards that it comes with are very cheap. So I recommend if you do something like this, you replace the boards with solid wood. Same thing down there. I did the same thing over here. So that one stand that I got from Lowe's, which was about, was $100. All right, I'm using it for 4 fish tanks. All right, now the 29 gallon here for our puffers. This one right here overall cost about $300 to $400. With the light, the heater, you know, the substrate, the plants, all of these plants and the rocks all came from the 75 gallon and the 40 gallon aquarium. All of them. We started out with 1 or 2 purchases of plants, and now every single aquarium has plants in it. That's how easy it is to propagate plants if you get the right ones. And then the puffers, of course, and again we'll get to the fish cost. So overall about $400 to $600 for this one. This down here is about 40 bucks because it has a really thin layer of stuff. Has a cheap Amazon heater that we love. We haven't, it's a high top heater. None of them have ever failed on us so far. So yeah, about $40 there. I don't know why I just turned the camera around. I was trying to pause it. So you saw me walking. This right here is one of our grow out tanks for our male guppies. Very cheap, about $8 for the Tupperware. The board we had already, the cinder blocks that we had right here. So this is a very cheap stand. We got a heater in the back. This was one of the heaters that we started with in the beginning for about $10 off Amazon. Cheap sponge filter and some PVC pipe in there with the black diamond blasting sand, and the white stuff you see is crushed coral. So yeah, so right here overall about 25 bucks. Right here, what you see covered up, this is our quarantine tank. We're using a cooler for the stand. Why? Because this isn't always out here. When we're done quarantining fish, I clean it out, you know. I clean it out really well, either use vinegar or bleach or something to clean it all out, and then I let it dry out completely, and we store that in the closet. Same thing with all the decorations. Right now we have some guppies in here, all right, that are being treated with levamisole for calamanus worms. So that's something that you also have to deal with if you have a fish room, is potential illnesses, diseases, and nasty parasites like this. So they're all in here getting better. I'll have to vacuum that later. But yeah, so this right here, this overall setup, we already had the cooler, the tub up here, and the heater and the decorations and stuff, about 25, 30 bucks here for a quarantine tank, really cheap. All right, that includes the 2 air pumps on the side over here. All right, now these are our kids' tanks. Now technically I did pay for them at first, but I'm making them pay it off with working around the house and allowance. The tank and overall setup of everything in all 3 of them were about $95 for everything. All right, so 95, 95, all right, and 95. All right, so that's just the cost of just getting the stuff. Now don't buy all of this stuff right away. You want to start with 1, months or weeks later, however long you want to wait, start with 2. And then weeks and months later, 3, 4, or whatever. But don't get them all at the same time, because you'll end up spending somewhere around $5,000 to $7,000 or more, depending on what you want to get, to just set up your fish room. So it can be very expensive. We did, again, you look for all the sales and deals you can find on Amazon, Petco, PetSmart, all those places. PetSmart has some deals on substrate for the planted substrate a lot of times, so we tend to get it for half price there as well. And then there's other things, other costs. So just keep in mind, I'm not going to go through the cost of these, but keep in mind there are a lot of other things you still have to buy. I'll show you. So you got to buy testing supplies, you got to buy food, you got to buy, you know, nets, you know, got to buy chemicals to put in there for like bacteria. You need towels if you don't want to use your own towels, buckets if you're going to do it the way we do it, which is change out our water with buckets. You're going to need air pumps for all your aquariums. Maybe you're going to need, you know, this right here. So you're going to need a lot of stuff. So it important that you look for deals. Don't just buy the most expensive thing, because a lot of times the most expensive thing is also the crappiest thing sometimes. That is, unless you're getting the acrylic tanks that have no seams in it. But on these right here, if you buy them from Petco, before you leave the building, you need to check the seals to make sure the seals are not loose, they don't have air bubbles in them, anything like that. If you do all that and you check the seals and you look for those deformities and defective parts, you won't have any leaks. So all of the aquariums that we bought from Petco didn't have one single leak, but we got them all for half off. Why? Because they have that 50% off sale many different times throughout the year. So look for it if you have a Petco close by. Now, one of the other things, so that's just getting it set up. So the next part would be that you would need to buy the fish. So you need to go to websites, look for deals. So find the best deals that you can find for, you know, the McMastereye, the Piscramas, for, you know, pencil fish, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find deals. So overall, depending on how much fish you want, if you want to just do one breed in each tank, it'll be the best thing for you if you are going to breed those fish. But if you want to have something to look at, then you may spend a little bit more. Look for the cheap ones. So dither fish like these pencil fish here, these cherry barbs and these checker barbs, they're about $3 a fish if you do it right online. But then when you get to the fish you want to breed, like the McMastereyes in here, you'll see one right there, you can get those for about $30 a pair. Or even the Hong Sloy, which is another one, you can get those for about $30, $40 a pair. Everything in this tank is trying to breed. So there's one of the females. You got fish in here, you know, dither fish and everything. We were breeding guppies in here, and we have a beta in here that love the guppies, but we have took the guppies out, and I'll explain that here. But guppies are known as the million fish, and we'll just leave it at that. 1 million fish, you know. So if you're not selling them fast, then I would say guppies are probably not a beginner fish if you're breeding. But if you are not breeding the fish and you have only males, guppies are a great fish. You can see that the Habrosus cories right there and the shrimp are all fighting over, the snails are all fighting over some kind of food there. But yeah, so we have fish in here. So yeah, overall in all of our tanks, I'd say we probably spent somewhere around $500 to $600 on just the fish. So you add that into the total costs of the fish, plus the total cost of food. It's going to be a very expensive hobby to start. All right. Now there are other things you need to keep in mind, and we'll go into other things like cleaning and stuff like that, and I'll show you videos of what my week looks like and how you do it. But during the week, you need to set a feeding schedule. So how many times are you going to feed your fish a day? Are you going to fast your fish a day? Are you going to give them different types of foods? So for us, we have a feeding schedule. So let me show you what that is. We actually have it on the wall and make it easier. Up here we have our feeding schedule. You see fish feeding schedule. This is also the cleaning schedule, so that I know what tanks to clean on what day of the week, and then what day of the month am I going to do the deep clean. We only deep clean the tanks once a month. All right, we don't do it every single time, only once, and it's only, you know, yeah, literally once a month. So yeah, so that's what this is here. Foods, you want to make sure you're feeding them a variety of foods. So you'll see here frozen foods, dry with added. These are the dry foods that I add, the added nutrients in here, frozen foods. And then of course on Sunday we feed frozen or live foods. So Sunday is our live food day most of the time if we have it, because the day before we fast. So this is how the tank gets really shiny and doesn't get all cloudy. I like to overfeed a little bit on these days. That way we fast them here. The tank, they search for all the food that's in there. They do great at cleaning it up. And then on Sunday, they get the live food and they gobble that stuff up. But yeah, so you'll need to set a feeding schedule and feed your fish based on that schedule. Otherwise, if you don't, then you may forget what you fed or when you fed it and what you're supposed to do each day. So yeah, set a feeding schedule. If it's just you by yourself, then I probably wouldn't get 10 aquariums to start. Maybe start with 2 or 3, and definitely do not start with guppies breeding, because if you do, you're going to end up with 900 aquariums, because guppies will fill every single aquarium if you are not selling them that fast, which we ain't selling them that fast because they take a very long time to get to that stage where you can sell them. But we do have a local auction around here, which is where we're going to mostly sell all of our guppies. That is if you know, they don't get old enough. But yeah, we have an auction in October, so we will sell our red dragon, our half black white tuxedo guppies, and then of course the ones that we're not sure of the dad, we'll sell those as mutt guppies, that type of thing. Sell them as pairs and trios, that type of thing in the auction. We're going to get rid of Acaras here in the auction as well, so we'll sell those in groups. These are beautiful Acaras with a brilliant, the regular true blue Acaras have a brilliant blue sparkle, and the electric blues are bred with the darkest, you know, female and male that I could find, so they're going to be brilliant blue with a dark black, so that's what we were looking for. So they'll go really well. That's just a catch-all tank of fish that we had that weren't, so if they were being grumpy towards other fish, they ended up in there. But yeah, so that's that. So yeah, so it costs a lot to start a fish room. Now, what is my recommendation? Start with 1 to 3 tanks. Don't go any further. Your one tank is going to be your main display tank, and if you're wanting to breed fish in there, you're going to take the eggs out and put them into a separate tank. So here, once the Acaras are gone, in that aquarium over there, because I switched over to breeding the smaller cichlids, the pistogrammas, which they've given me lots of eggs in here, but because we don't have a place for them right now, I'm letting the mothers learn how to be moms, and then eventually I will take the eggs out of here directly from the coconut. I won't remove the eggs from the coconut shell, but I will pull the coconut shell out and put it into the grow-out tank and then switch it out with another coconut, so that they always think the coconuts are there and the eggs just disappeared. And that'll actually increase the amount of times that they lay eggs. But yeah, so that is just the startup costs. The next part is you need to do all the cleaning. When you do all the cleaning, it's going to be even more difficult. So let's take a look at what my week looks like cleaning the aquariums.
Go.
Alright, so yeah, so today is Saturday, and Saturday is the start of our cleaning week. This is the day that we clean the 75 and the day that we clean the 40-gallon aquarium. We got our buckets ready, our fresh water. We're actually going to rearrange the floating plant in here and over there, which we already did, and kind of, you know, pull a bunch of them out and start over with a bunch of fresh plants just because. We've already cleaned the glass on both, but yeah, that's what we do today. Clean the 75 and we clean the 40. So yeah. So we just come in here and we just start cleaning up the substrate. We'll see you again tomorrow. Yeah, so this is our typical Sunday. Buckets. We change out the water in this, clean the substrate in that, clean the filters there, change out the water in this, clean the filters and the substrate. Alright. Add in much needed chemicals that are not found in our water supply, and then we clean our snail tank. We gave them some rapashi and green beans, right?
Yeah.
And green beans, we've learned that if you feed them green beans, it makes the water cloudy from their poop. Really weird. But yeah, towels down, buckets of water, clean in there. That's our typical Sunday. Alright, so yeah, so on Sunday it takes us roughly anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 hours of cleaning time for the tanks. So yeah, so stay tuned for the next day. Okay, so today is Monday in the afternoon after 3:30, and this is our typical Monday. We get it clean and clean and clean, so lots of cleaning. So today we clean out the guppy fry tank and the puffer tank over there. Right now I'm cleaning out the sponge filter. Okay. And I'll be putting that back, and we've already cleaned the substrate. But yeah, it's just another day. So far, day number 3. Guppies, dirty buckets, clean water, chemicals, and the next thing over there is to clean the puffer tank. So yeah, so typical day number 3. You can stop. Here we are again. Today is Tuesday, and it's another day of cleaning. So like I said, if you want to own a fish room, there are things that you have to commit to, and cleaning your fish tanks is one of the things you got to do. So here we are again, setting up our table of, you know, chemicals to, you know, balance out the aquariums and keep them stable. Buckets, and we're going to clean the 3 10-gallon aquariums. One here, one here, and let me turn the light on. One here. All right. So yeah, 3 10-gallon aquariums. This will be the last day of cleaning for us. And again, this is if you want a fish room and you don't have an auto water change system. This is how you have to handle it if you don't want to do it all in one day. So yeah, so that's is our Tuesday. Like I said, we clean up. Thanks over Galaxy Glow Studios. He gave me this wonderful t-shirt here. All right, really soft. Not sponsored by him, nothing like that. Like I said, we use his products here in our fish room. Amazing products. Go check them out. I do have another video that is specific to the review of the products that we do own directly from Joshua. Really soft t-shirt. Amazing. Feels good. It's form-fitting. So if you're a bigger guy like me, an extra large may be form-fitting. So just keep an eye on it. I'm over 200 pounds, and this is an extra large. It fits great and it's really soft, but yeah, it's form-fitting. So yeah, so check out his t-shirts as well. Really nice and soft. I like soft shirts. But yeah, so this is our final day of cleaning the fish room, and then we have one other day left, and that day is just testing the waters and seeing where everything is at. And that'll be the last thing that we do for the week, besides feeding the fish. But yeah, thanks for checking us out, and we'll continue on. Alright, now it's testing day, so what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at what we do here. So every week we have to test our tanks because we have so many, and some of them are overstocked because of the fact that they are grow out tanks. We have to make sure that their levels are always right for the fish, so that the fish don't just die off or get sick or anything like that. So we have to always watch. So here, take a look. Here's our test kit. This is the API Freshwater Master Test Kit. Alright, we're testing the nitrates on several of our aquariums right now. This will be the pH right here. Alright, so we just take this. Okay. Drop in 3 drops. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Put the lid back on. Shake these up. Okay. Shake this one up. Okay. So that's how you do the test for pH. Here is nitrates. All right. So we can know how much water we need to change in the aquariums at the end of the week. All right. We got all these extra test files off of Amazon as well. We pull out 5 milliliters. We pull out 5 milliliters of water using a 5 milliliter oral syringe that you can get from pretty much any pharmacy. I always keep paper towels on hand. But yeah, so that's what we do. When you have a fish room, you got to do that constantly all the time. You can't just expect your levels to be perfect. Now, if your fish never changed in the aquarium or anything like that, and you tested and the levels were always the same all the time, then you can probably reduce that. But yeah, testing day. So we just pull out water, test it, make sure, see what it has. You got to do that every week as well. So there's one good thing about owning a fish room. If you do have fish, it's really good if you get your kids involved. One, it teaches them about biology of fish. You can actually have something to talk to your kids about, especially if they own their own fish tank. I mean, that's a good thing as well. And then of course, being able to see them excited about fish breeding or any eggs like that hatching, that type of thing, will make them feel like they accomplished something with their fish tank. So yeah, so that's another good thing. So being able to interact with your children if you're finding it hard in different ways. So our kids love their fish. They don't really interact as much as I'd want them to, but they do enjoy their fish, and they do come tell me when something's wrong. So like if one of the betas is acting weird, which we did have recently, and I went in there and tested the water. If you know how to do that, test the water. Look first for signs of sickness, but then test the water, and I found out that his pH had crashed a little bit. So he was acting scared and hurt like that, but he wasn't sick. Didn't show any signs of illness, but when I tested the water, he was basically living in acid. So I had dropped in a catappa leaf, a little bit too big apparently, and it dropped the pH from 7 down to 6.1. So he didn't like that too much. So I had to slowly over a day and a half, raise the pH back up, change out the water, that type of thing. So yeah, so they can be good, observers of what's going on in the fish tanks as well, and it just gives them something to stare at, which is interesting, especially if you're able to answer the questions for them. All right, so that's most of our week there. So we clean on Saturday, we clean on Sunday, we clean on Monday, we clean on Tuesday, and then sometime on either Thursday or Friday, we test all of our tanks to make sure our tank, levels are all stable and all within range. Adjust as necessary. So basically, it's a long process. You need to be able to put in a lot of dedication to your work and know that you're not going to be able to take a lot of vacations unless you have someone to come over and take care of your fish room. So some other things you need to worry about is medicating your fish. So you must always have fish medications on hand. Now the three that I recommend to have on hand at all times are the Maricin or erythromycin, I believe is what erythromycin. It can be any brand, just erythromycin. The Paraclins or the Prazi, the Paraclins, or a variation of it that includes the 250 milligrams of metronidazole, I believe is how you say it, and the 75 milligrams of praziquantel. Again, there's different brands out there that have that exact same combination, so sticking with those two is very important. And then ICX. I haven't really found a lot of other products out there that work as well on IC, so I normally stick with ICX. Now there are a few out there, but they become a lot more expensive. But ICX, even though it does turn to silicone blue, it's good to have on hand. So buy a 16-ounce bottle, it'll last you forever. And use it only in the quarantine tanks if you do have ick. Now ick is one of those ones that is much easier to pull fish out in quarantine, because a lot of times it doesn't get transferred to the other fish, but can if you don't catch it soon enough. But the quicker you catch any illnesses or diseases or anything in your tank and pull those fish out, the quicker you can get them treated. Some diseases like Columbanus worms, which is what we're dealing with right now because of some plants that we bought that for some reason the eggs just didn't rinse off or anything when we did the bleach bath. But that's the only new thing that I can say that we did add. Or the tube effects worms, which I learned the tube effects worms that we are a potential vector for these Columbanus worms. So we won't be buying tube effects worms anymore. So those are the two locations where it may come from. And again, they are disgusting looking, and they look like little red worms coming out of the butt. So you have to deal with that if you own a fish room. And then of course you gotta know where to get all this stuff or know where to go. So we have a place here called Cafe, which is the Columbus area fish enthusiast group. You can go on there and ask questions. You can go on to places like Aquarium Co-op and send a question to them there, or even use the chat whenever he does a live session and see if he might be able to answer. There are many different places you can ask questions. Just know who to reach out to, even local fish stores. And it is important to support your local fish stores because of the simple fact that there are a lot less of them around. So a lot of people are selling online and then selling them for cheaper than these local fish stores. So every now and then buying some fish or something from your local fish store to keep it in business. Not Petco or PetSmart, even though Petco has the best place to buy tanks. The rest of your stuff, you can get at your local fish store. So yeah, so my week entails cleaning, feeding, testing. That's my whole week. Monitoring, so always looking at your fish every day. And having a fish room is actually good for your health. They say that it can reduce stress. They say that it can reduce anxiety. There's so many different things. It can actually help you live longer. It's like owning a dog or a cat or anything else. Just having that as a viewing pleasure helps you be more happy in life. And also it allows you to get involved with other people. So if you're not single or you don't have kids, you can always go to these cafe swaps or local auctions for fish and stuff like that, and get to know people. So it's a good way to get to know people as well. So yeah, so if you're considering setting up a fish room or starting a fish room, just know that you're not going to be able to make it look like all those people on YouTube. Some of those people have been doing it for 20 to 30 years. They have 300-400 tanks. Don't start out that way. If you start out with 300-400 tanks, you're probably going to get burnt out and you're not going to want to do it anymore. So I recommend starting out small, and just know that starting out small, you're going to want more. And if you don't, stay small. It's best to stay small if you can. You're going to first want to do it as a hobby, and then if you make a little money down the way selling your, your fry or your fish, then good, so be it. That's a good thing. But don't expect to become rich having a fish room. A fish room is mostly because you like the hobby and you want to contribute to it. There's a lot of other things to know. So let's just say you've never owned a fish tank before. You need to learn about things like the nitrogen cycle. You need to learn about things like water chemistry, which is what I mean by testing. So testing the chemistry of your water, which is the nitrite or the ammonia, the nitrites, the nitrates. If you have algae growth in there and you're not sure where it comes from, then you need to test for phosphates, that type of thing. You need to test for calcium if you got snails, magnesium if you got shrimp. So many different things that you may need to test for if you want to keep fish in general. Just keeping a fish tank and never testing the water and just going with what the guys tell you at the fish store is going to make either your fish die or make you hate the hobby. You need to learn how to actually take care of the fish before you get them, and know what you're getting into, because having a fish tank and having a fish room can be quite time consuming. But again, it is well worth it if you take the time and ease into it. So yeah, so that's what it's like to own a fish room. And if you still want to do it, I encourage you to start small, then go big, or just stay small. But just know that you need to choose everything that you want to do before you even start it. Before you buy the fish tank, learn what fish you want and learn if they are compatible with each other. Otherwise, if you go out there and buy a fish tank and just throw a bunch of fish in there, they may kill each other, or even worse, eat each other. So yeah, research your fish too. That's very important. If you buy a cichlid, know what type of water parameters they need to live in. Certain African cichlids out there, they actually need a pH of 8+. I've even seen some tanks that are close to 9, which is just crazy. I don't want to have to try to get my pH that high. It's already hard enough to keep it at 7 because of the water that we have here. So yeah, so research your fish, research compatibility, research feeding cycles, research parasites, and all of that stuff about having fish and owning fish, and you'll be way more prepared and way more ready to own your new fish room. So I hope that you have a good time setting up your fish room, or at least considering it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for coming to NoobAquatics.